Francisco yesterday, and it's really the only reason why you go to San Francisco, because it is going to be at least 50 degrees, well, 40 to 50 degrees cooler from where I am. I'm in my closet. I'm in the red part of the blue state. I go into the city to have a nice brunch because it is literally 40 to 50 degrees cooler in the city. San Francisco's cool. And I left my heart in San Francisco. I had things to say about Tony Bennett on Friday. What a career, huh? And I left my heart in San Francisco isn't even his best song. It's a song they play when the Giants win San Francisco. Just to rub it in. Oh, here's Tony Bennett. He's going to sing you off. All the opponents who come in, they lose. Well, not lately. Giants are on the road. They lose. No one plays I Left My Heart in San Francisco for the Giants. Actually, they should, because they did. They don't play well outside San Francisco. Anyway, hello, everyone. It's Emil Guillermo. Emil Amok to you. Welcome to my Takeout, Emil Amok's Takeout. My takes on all things considerable. I call this my micro talk show of the AAPI and the AAXs, fill in your ethnicity, and the ALLs, all the rest of you, where we answer the question, what does an Asian American think? Or maybe specifically, what do I think? I just come on here Monday through Friday. I come on live at 2 p.m., so there is no script. There, I'm doing this in honor of the Writers Guild. No, not a member of the Writers. Actually, I am a member of AFTRA. I get an after pension, after SAG pension. God, if I joined AFTRA when it was after SAG, I mean, I was a member of AFTRA when it was alone, maybe my pension would be more. Anyway, we're here. Hello, how are you? It's Monday. And lots of things happening. Like I said, I went to San Francisco. It was cooler. And I have to say, I'm a little disappointed in what was once the premier vegan place in San Francisco. Well, vegan vegetarian. Great view, great food. I met a long lost relative, a god sister. Hadn't seen her in a while. Hadn't seen her since the pandemic. So, every time you go and meet people, subsequent to whatever you say is the end of the pandemic, it's a good thing. It's like, wow, I haven't seen you in 3 years, 4 years. It's like a reunion. And I just have this suspicion you better do it now, because I think it might see a surge, might be something. Well, everyone says, oh, it's just a small cold. It's not like, who knows? We don't know. But I know I'm vaxxed up, regardless of what Bobby Kennedy Jr. says. And, how I feel about him. I mean, he was in college. He was just a big, doped up playboy, a doped up playboy legacy. Now, no one ever talks about, affirmative action only for doped up playboy legacies. No one ever talks about that. Anyway, check out Lawrence O'Donnell's show, The Last Word, on last Thursday. Oh, he lets Bobby Kennedy Jr. have it. And puts it into context. I never knew there was, I always thought white privilege was white privilege. I didn't know there was Kennedy privilege, which apparently trumps white privilege. It's just uber white privilege. And now you get the family arguing, and it's getting messy there. The upper echelons of Democratic royalty. Anyway, so I want to talk about this restaurant where I go to. It's supposed to be so good, and it is. But now, and it's to the point now where the food is okay. I mean, if you go to a restaurant a lot, I'm all for going to the same restaurant a lot because you know what you can eat, and that way you don't overeat every time you go there. You eat incrementally. But the problem is you get to know the place and you get to know when it's on and when it's off. And I I got to try another vegetarian vegan restaurant now. I mean, it's gotten to the point where you say, I can't eat. I can't eat the view. I mean, the view is nice, but I can't eat the view. Anyway, I'm just a little upset there about. Well, the food was all right. The company was what makes it worthwhile. That's what makes it worthwhile. And so I met my god sister. It was great. Like I said, every time you get together with people and you haven't seen in like 3 years because of the pandemic, you say, "Wow, this is incredible. We're having a reunion." Anyway, I want to talk about the Imelda Marcos thing. It's still on my mind. Did you know? I mean, this is the truth. Lea Salonga was inserted into the. That sounds kind of indelicate. She was inserted, Emil. Well, I mean, she wasn't there, and then she was there, and she's now the big star draw. And according to Playbill, on the 18th, a few days ago, just by adding Lea Salonga brought the highest grosses yet for Here Lies Love. Yeah, I mean, it's incredible. Just to bring on Miss Saigon Star, right? Just announcing a limited engagement, according to Playbill, more than $250,000 was added to the gross, and that's up by 52% from the previous week. And now that show has raised $785,035.44. I mean, they're down to the penny there, 44 cents, not 45. No. $785,035.44. And if you find an extra penny, you can keep it. So this David Byrne, I like David Byrne. I don't know Fatboy Slim, but I like David Byrne, Talking Heads, right? And I'm looking forward. Here's the thing. It's about Imelda Marcos and Ferdinand Marcos, and poor Ferdinand, right? The late Ferdinand Marcos is the dictator, and he was the dictator of Imelda, although he was the dictator of other women, I understand. I mean, that comes out in the show, the play, Here Lies Love. Or maybe it should be Her Lies, comma, love. Like, she's talking to George Hamilton or something. Here lies, her lies, love. Or maybe just Her Lies, they should just call it. Because I know that there's a part of me that says I shouldn't partake. But today I want to talk about why. I mean, this is pretty incredible. Lea Salonga comes in and she adds almost 50% from the previous week. They're almost certainly going to make $1 million, which should please the investors who, I mean, to mount a production like this, I mean, it's a special production because it's immersive. It's just different, right? And that's probably why I'm giving it a chance, because there's a part of me that says I should have nothing. I should want to have nothing to do with a show like this. I mean, I'm the guy who rails out against bad comedians who make bad Asian American jokes or bad Chinese American jokes or bad Filipino American jokes. I mean, so I stop at martial law. I stop at dictatorship. No, I should just reject Here Lies Love, but I'm not. I'm showing my growth as a human being. Also, showing a sign of fairness. Would it be fair to diss Here Lies Love without seeing it? So I want to be nothing but fair, right? And so on the Asian American Legal Defense and Education Fund, ALDEF, AALDEF.org/blog, I posted why I will see Here Lies Love. I know maybe maybe it surprises you, maybe it doesn't. But like I said, I say on that ALDEF blog, aaldef.org/blog, why I will see Here Lies Love, which I call I call it the tuneful autocratic dictatorship of Ferdinand and Imelda Marcos, because I give Ferdinand the top billing. I mean, a lot of people say, oh, the Imelda musical, Imelda Marcos and her dictator. I mean, and he's dead. Ferdinand's dead. The late Ferdinand. Imelda's still around counting shoes somewhere. You got to get the shoe jokes in because there's not enough there's no shoe jokes, apparently, in this production. And she wears them, but it's really her story. She's the singer. Ferdinand is more the dancer and the womanizer. Imelda's the pill popper and the dancer and the singer, and she is the big shoulders. So my column's going to come out in the Inquirer.net tomorrow, if not later today. Also, some other places where I just talk about history. And I get into the piece by saying, if we apply the Florida educational standards of history, the Florida educational standards that we're talking about last week, to Filipino history, I suppose there would be a positive benefit of the Marcos dictatorship. That's right, the Marcos dictatorship. The authoritarian singing and dancing of the Marcoses themselves. It's not robotic, but as one reviewer pointed out, there are prompts that tell you what to do if you're in the audience. And the audience is this strange, it's like you're in a mosh pit, right? A disco mosh pit. And it sort of hints at a kind of autocratic theme that's overarching. Oh, because that's why this is art. That's why this whole experience is art. But the positive benefit, this singing and dancing, the history of a Filipino dictatorship funded and propped up by Reagan and Bush and the interests of the U.S. government. I mean, if it's taught at all in Florida schools, let alone any schools in the U.S., it gets a paragraph at best, right? I mean, do you learn about the Marcos dictatorship in any kind of history class in junior high, high school, maybe in specialized classes in college? But there's singing and dancing and there's pictures. We might get more than a paragraph in the public school curriculum now. We can go for 90 minutes. That's how long the show goes. And it's all on display there at this new musical on Broadway, based on Imelda Marcos and the late Filipino dictator Ferdinand Marcos. Here Lies Love. Or should that be more simply Her Lies? Her lies, here lies. Her lies. The love part, debatable. So first, let me say, I do have a healthy respect for Filipino and Filipino-American history. From 1587 to the present, all of which is represented in my own personal and comic one-man show, Emil, Amok, lost NPR host. Here's the little postcard placard I'm passing out starting today. If you get one, it's a collector's item. If you're able to get one, it's because I actually handed one out to you personally. Well, we had a successful 7-show run off Broadway at the Frigid Fringe in New York City last February. I'm doing another iteration of the show at the San Francisco Fringe, August 12th, 17th, and 19th. Go to amok.com for ticket info. And maybe you'll be lucky enough to get one of these special collector's items. There it is. See? That's me in New York City at the Under St. Mark's Theater. I mean, 7 shows had a good review. Manhattan Digest. Look it up. So, look, I find that history tends to give weight. It gives weight to my show. It's so heavy that I have to make fun of it, right? But now there's a different use of history in Here Lies Love, concocted by that pop rock icon David Byrne and Fatboy Slim The heavy Filipino history is just an excuse for the music and dance that's also good. It apparently seems to make the history float away. And from all reports, this is not, or this, when I say this, I mean Here Lies Love, is not Mel Brooks's dark comedy, The Producers, 1967. That's a while ago, but, if you're a Mel Brooks fan, Springtime for Hitler. Now, if it were like that, I'd say, interesting. They're being critical. But the Marcos musical is no satire. Here Lies Love is a lot more serious about its singing and dancing. And the show has a multi-talented all-Filipino cast. And we must point out, until August 13th, it features the Filipino diva, Broadway herself, Leah Salonga, as I mentioned. Her performance of the song, Jess Asks the Flowers. Jess Asks the Flowers. I don't know. This is what the reviewers are saying. Jess Asks the Flowers. I bet you it gets nominated for a Tony by guilty liberal Tony voters. It's being seen as a tribute to those imprisoned and murdered by the Marcos regime. The tune anchors the show and may be just the thing that single-handedly balances the previous 80 minutes or so for its autocratic mirth and its curious subtext. Hey, the hideous martial law of the Philippines. Thumbs up. See, it's crazy. It's almost offensive. Now, as an Asian American Filipino journalist and sometimes theatrical performer, I'm interested in the use of theater as spectacle, as well as any attempt to tell an important part of the Filipino story in public. I also want to be supportive of the employment of all those talented Filipino actors, dancers, and singers on display. And there is much. I mean, it'll blow your mind. You see in their Philippines, you mean you've had to play Hispanic parts for years? You've had to put on more makeup and be white? There's some talented people there. They're getting work. So without doubt, I'm going to see Here Lies Love when I get to New York later in August. Because after I do my Emil Amok Los NPR host, after I do this show, I'm going to New York and I'm going to be in The Conductor. Off Broadway. I think just one off at Theater for the New City. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to go see Here Lies Love during my off days. I'm going to get there, and I hope you do too. I'm just curious. How does it feel to be embedded in the disco mindset of the Marcos dictatorship? I mean, I got to look through my boxes to find my old Nick shirts. Those disco rayon polyester. They're not rayon. They're just a high-level polyester. Those disco shirts you need to wear. I know. Was I wearing bell-bottoms then? From the reviews I've read, this Broadway production pulls it off, at least physically. The theater has been transformed into a Studio 54-like nightclub, where the audience can stand on stage and be immersed among the performers. Imagine that. Here's Imelda coming. She's coming upon us. And she's lifting her shoe. You can watch Imelda rise beyond her shoulder pads. You can see Ferdinand doing his thing with other women. You can see the assassinated hero Benigno Aquino challenge the duo. The playbill, the thing they pass out, playbill, comes with a timeline of actual Filipino history. So if you are drunk from song and dance and are just having too much fun, the timeline should help your moral compass straighten it out a little bit. It's also a reminder that martial law was essentially a fun time, but just for the Marcos duo and their cronies. For the majority of the Filipinos out there in the Philippines, there was no joy in Discoville. I know the history, and I covered the Philippines during Benigno Aquino's assassination in 1983. Since that time, the country has seen people power oust the Marcos regime, but it's also seen that movement stymied by the global trend of autocracy. I mean, witness what's going on today in Israel. My God. They're trying to undo the Constitution. They're trying. Where's democracy going? Well, look at what's happening in Israel. Philippines no different. It's also seen the people power movement stymied by this global trend of autocracy. Under Rodrigo Duterte, the Marcos name was rehabilitated, enabling Bong Bong, the son of Ferdinand, and Imelda Marcos to become president now. So, as enough time passed to appreciate the Marcos history in retrospect, with this new Marcos, I mean, we have a buffer now between the past. We have a new Marcos. I mean, can this show have a run as long as the Marcos reign in the Philippines? For some of the Filipino-American producer investors of Here Lies Love, this may be the time to look at the history through a different lens. I mean, they include people like Jose Antonio Vargas, the Filipino-born American-based reporter who called attention to his undocumented status and the plight of other undocumented members of the 1.5 Filipino-American generation. I mean, Jose texts me every now and then. He didn't text me about this. Maybe because I'm not in New York now, and he was going to give me a free flight to New York to go see the play, the musical. But he's one of those producers. Another producer reportedly is her, the singer, whom I love. Her mother is Filipino, married to a African American, and she's just a fantastic singer. Notice the investor class is filled with famous, semi-famous showbiz, Hollywood celebrities. I think Joe Coy's name's there. I mean, in the old days, when they were fighting martial law, they would go to the doctors. They would go to the Filipino health professionals who'd come to America to study, and they were working in established medical practices. That's how Alex Escalmado did it when he was fighting the Marcos regime in his Philippine news. Now it's different. Now it's younger people, 40s, Filipino American. Some people whose parents left the Philippines because of Marcos. They came here. They were born in the Philippines, but they're essentially American. They're kind of hybrids, trying to figure out, what does this Marcos regime, this dictatorship, mean to me? So this is a response. And they were able to get the investor wherewithal, get Lea Salonga. This David Byrne Fatboy Slim project has been around since 2010, 2013. It's been around a while. It opened to the public, opened in Seattle. It's had some iterations, and now it's on Broadway. Now, you got to understand that for decades, the Marcos family has divided the Filipino community. Pro-Marcos, anti-Marcos, young, old. Even my father was from Marcos's province. He was pro-Marcos, of course. Me, I was a reporter. I was agnostic, right, while reporting. When I slipped into commentary, well, it's clear that I'm partial to the anti-Marcos. But this has been the dividing line in the community. And now the question is, will seeing the show make the community of Filipino Americans, 4 million people throughout the country, more willing to forgive the dictator? Or do we sing about the past to embrace and forgive a new generation of Marcos leadership? That would be very Catholic, a colonial remnant. And if you aren't Filipino and don't know Filipino history, Is this your gateway invite to learn more? Or are you happy enough with humming some beautiful songs instead of learning about all the lives changed through the dictatorship's jailing, torture, and murder of thousands? I mean, thousands of people. You know, Aquino Benigno, not Corey, Benigno, the Senate, he was the real rival. And then Benigno was killed, and Corey emerged as the accidental leader of people power. So Aquino is the marquee name, but I think of my friends like Violetta Bullet Marasigan, who died in a freak accident in 2000 in San Francisco. This was after people power. And during martial law in the Philippines, Bullet and her husband were among the 70,000 jailed for their anti-Marcos activism. That's right, I said 70,000. That's like 2 Oracle Parks in San Francisco. You know, because we know what a baseball stadium's like. 2 of those stadium-full type places called prisons. Those numbers, yeah. And then perhaps too, the show is relevant to an America a year away from the 2024 election as a cautionary tale of how a fascist regime of the past looks like live. I mean, can you imagine it happening in America now? Because we were all too busy singing and dancing. Forget about Nero fiddling while Rome burns. Can Donald Trump sing and dance? Will we see that on Broadway sometime in the future? You know, all those questions and immersive staging make me want to see Here Lies Love. I mean, if you go to the ALDEF post, aldef.org/blog, right there, you could see my column. And you see how everyone's sort of standing around festival style seating. They're in a disco, they're dancing, the actors are there moving, and it's immersive. It's experimental. It makes you feel the fun. It makes you feel the music. Does it make you feel the dictatorship? And all that it really meant to the Filipinos. So I want to see Here Lies Love. I'm interested in the spectacle of theater. I want to know what theater can do. So I'll experience it. And then we can argue later about what it all means, as is our First Amendment right. Because remember this, no one could do that under martial law in the Philippines. That's truth. You'd be one of the 70,000 jailed. I mean, it's really something when you look at the disco and how the theater is transformed. And there's Imelda, raising the roof and people just standing around watching her. I guess it's no different from the way they stage Super Bowl shows, when there's an audience there looking up at the performer. Just think of all the Super Bowl halftime shows. And it's just a unique theater experience. Is it worthy of using to celebrate such an onerous historical moment in world history, not just Philippine history, in world history? Or is it, as I said, your gateway invite to learn more and understand more? And do more people just walk away and say, oh my God, I had no idea But thank God I had that song introducing me to, the imprisonment and the torture and the murder of people who disagreed with them. Now I feel it's almost like having your dessert first, right? Now I wish I hadn't had that second piece of ube pandesal or something. The ube pandesal, that's so common. You need some big puff pastry with the Filipino sweet potato ube. It's like, really, it's like having your dessert first. So let's have the dessert first, and I'll tell you how lousy the Marcos regime was. But, hey, they've got a month now because Lea Salonga's there until the 13th of August. And her presence, the difference in her presence alone was like $250,000 in 1 week in gross receipts. So, if she's there for, they're at 700,000, almost three quarters of a million. They got a month to go. Maybe they net 2.5 million, something like that. Maybe 3, or they gross rather. They shut it down before they lose too much money, and then they take a small thing on the road. Take it to all the Filipino community centers, and no, they're not going to be able to make the Ceremony high school gym into a Studio 54. But, this is where a thing like this can go. You keep this alive in little bits. Don't get too greedy. And then maybe people start seeing the history. And then, although this also could happen. Right now, it's played straight, right? Here's Imelda. It's not played for laughs. But I don't know. At some point, what if it's so damn campy that it's got to be played for laughs? And then it's more bearable. Like, yeah, Springtime for Hitler. I think any number of possibilities for this. That's why I'm not trashing it. I'm not trashing the Imelda musical. I'm not saying there's no way I'm going to see it. I'm saying the way I'm going to see it. I'm going to be out there dancing with those people, like putting on my John Travolta moves. I'm going to be there. I want to see it. And then I want to see how it all makes me feel. From beginning to middle to end. And when I leave, if that Lea Salonga song just doesn't shock me into an awareness that, oh my God, what are we dancing to? What were we enjoying? So maybe that's the transformation that occurs. But, it's a musical. Everyone on Broadway wants everything set to music. Everything's set to music. Oh, you got a musical for that? Yeah. Oh, Emil, Amok lost NPR. You got a musical? You got a musical version for that? No, I'm sorry. I just bang a gong. I bang my gong. That's about it. No music. Well, Kulintang is an indigenous form of music. It's not like. It's a little different from pop stuff. So it's more like bang. It's polyrhythmic, Asian, indigenous music. We're only into the Western colonial thing. Oh, okay. I'm just saying, I'm curious about this Here Lies Love. It may be Here Lies, but there may be some redeeming quality here that says, darn it, there's something here. It's, dare I say, special. Might be. Anyway, many of you will be seeing it before me because I'm not going there till sometime in August. Hopefully before Lea Salonga goes. I don't think so. I get there August 21st. So maybe she's gone. And then I'm seeing, oh man, I got the understudy. But look, hey, I've worked with understudies. They may not be the star, but their heart and soul's in it. Their heart and soul is in it. So all my friends who've been understudies. And to me, I was always understudy to my father. All right. Well, it's a weird kind of day here because everyone's sort of, we're looking, waiting. Oh, when is that third indictment for Trump? No. The fourth indictment. Yeah, that's what we want to see. And then I still think not enough was given to Kamala Harris on Friday when she showed up at Jacksonville to give a speech to the NAACP and to back them up in their protest of the Florida Education Department's following the wishes of Governor Ron DeSantis, saying that, hey, if you're going to talk about slavery, better talk about the positive things, because there were some things for personal benefit, like I said, just like in the Philippines thing, singing and dancing. And what about chain management? That's something that ag knowledge, when to plant seeds, when to pick them, I mean, it's ridiculous, right? And to see, I'm going to write about that for my Oakland Post column. To see Kamala Harris, really, she finds herself with this. I think it's Kamala moment. She finds herself because she can say, what is this propaganda that they're trying to perpetrate in the schools where they're not telling the truth about what happened with Black history, what happened with slavery. And it's true with every other, community of color and their history. If it's even taught, if it's even mentioned. So this is a Kamala moment. And because it allows her to step into her light, which is, I'm going to tell you why this stuff is, BS. And no one can say otherwise. It's just common sense. I mean, that's Kamala's thing. People say, oh, you're so woke. It's just common sense. To hear the guidelines for teaching slavery as well, there's got to be a personal benefit. If it's a personal, you got to talk about the positive things. Now, the Republicans are denying, of course, that, oh, come on, that's not what it's about. But that's what it's about. And they don't like it because Kamala got a lot of play on Friday, a little bit on Saturday, not so much on Sunday. But this is the thing. Kamala Harris is the executive branch's Al Sharpton. I mean, she's got a helicopter in, like that case with the dogs, that the dog and the African American suspect who was stopped, and they released the dogs, and it was all caught on video. It was brutal. I mean, this is Kamala's role. She plays the Biden administration's Al Sharpton. She goes in there. She's got to be more there than Benjamin Crump, because that's her spotlight. That's her thing. She's there to say, look, I'm a person of color. I'm Black. I'm Asian. I'm in the vice presidency. I've got power. I can help do something to change the situation. Because I'm here for you. I mean, that's Kamala's saying. If she wants to maintain that coalition of BIPOC communities who overwhelmingly go for Biden. Now, the Asians are a little shaky, and the Hispanics too, a little shaky. But she keeps the blacks at 90%, 95. And there's some defectors there, because some of them are going to say, "Oh, Tim Scott, he's a good one." I mean, Tim Scott reminds me, he's the antithesis of what Ramsey Lewis, the piano player, he talked about affirmative action. He said, "Hey, don't forget, when you take the elevator up, don't forget to send it back down." And Tim Scott, he's like taking the elevator back up and say, hey, I'm happy. We're saying, "Hey, Tim, send the elevator back down. Tim, send it back down now, Tim." And he said, "Hey, I'm happy. Everything's positive. Everything's positive." Say, "Tim, send the elevator back down." He's on. Same with Vivek Ramaswamy. He's not sending the elevator back down. Nikki Haley, I don't know. I don't think she's sending the elevator back down. I mean, and look at how people appreciate Tim Scott and Nikki Haley in South Carolina. Just saw the numbers in South Carolina. Trump is ahead by double digits, even in South Carolina, even when there are strong native sons and daughters, represented. Scott and Haley can't make a dent on Donald Trump. So, these are kind of like, we're waiting for that third indictment, of course, and we're waiting for the fourth, and we're just kind of in that summer mode. But things are going to heat up once people realize, oh my God, what are we going to do? Trump seems near, not invincible, but we Republicans don't seem to have a candidate that can challenge the Donald, even though what is the Donald? He's the imperfect candidate. And they can't find someone with the courage to challenge and beat him. Okay. A couple observations from the weekend. Did you see? I was in San Francisco. I mentioned the marathon was on. Oh my God, the marathon! But I didn't see, I must have come at the time when you got to finish 26 miles, and it wasn't like a mad rush of people. It was like stragglers, and but I knew that it was happening because it shut down some streets. But that's just how out of touch I've been about, because had I known it was Marathon Sunday, I would not have gone down. But like I said, it was like 105 where I am, and only like 65 degrees in the city. So let's go to the city. Cool off. Keep our clothes on. That was great. Except the restaurant. I got to pick a different vegan vegetarian restaurant, because my favorite one is sort of like in the food department, a little too greasy, a little too unspectacular. And I think they're relying on us eating the view. It has a nice view. And I guess if you eat the view, you'll lose a lot of weight. That's guaranteed. But I got to find another vegan vegetarian restaurant to my liking. Did you see the Women's World Cup? Here's my suggestion. I get a service on my TV where they give you the key plays. I think that's available on some things. But if you can find some service, like, for example, YouTube TV, they'll give you a chance to just watch the key plays, which if you're, if you don't have the time, you just go and watch a 90-minute soccer match in less than 20 key plays. I mean, I don't think there's ever been more than, 20 key plays in any one game that I've seen the last couple of days. One had only like 9. Oh man, what a boring game. One had, the Americans won, but now I've managed to see all the teams play that have played that are being broadcast. And I will say the Americans are a little rusty. They need to get their game up because I saw some great play. The Germans were impressive. They were impressive. I think the German team just stands out in my mind more than any other. They're playing the Americans play the Dutch on Wednesday. They should have the Americans should have beaten the Vietnam team by like 10 goals. That because you need all the goals. Goal differential counts in this at this stage. So if you beat Vietnam 10-0 and then you like tie or win 1-0 or 2-1 against these European teams or the strong teams, then that's okay because you scored the 10 against you beat up on the poor teams. So I'm just hoping that the U.S. can get by the Netherlands. I saw a lot of good teams. Most notable in my mind that sticks out, Germany. The German women's team, they are good. They're good. So the Team Philippines. Let me say this about Team. I almost said Team Filipino American because like 3/4 of the team were born or are Filipino American. So I'm rooting for them, and I want to see them do well. Just imagine a lot of them are college players, and some of them they may be like second or third string, maybe fourth string on the U.S. team. I mean, if they had a chance to play for the U.S. team, they play for the U.S. team, but some of them don't. And so it's great that they allow people with parents from, born in these foreign lands it's great they allow their daughters to play because it gives an opportunity. And so if you want to see the Team USA 0.5, that would be Philippines. And they're not bad. They held the Americans, or they held the what team did they play? They played the Swiss. They held the Swiss to 1 goal at halftime, I think. I think it was like 1-0, and then fell apart in the second half. Didn't have the gas. It's hard. Tough game. Oh, I saw Real Madrid play AC Milan. AC Milan has Christian Pulisic. I'm a big Christian Pulisic fan. I mean, he's not much bigger than me. He's a great soccer player. And he's like the best American out there. He had a great service ball from a corner kick that was headed in for a goal. 2-0 Americans. Or not Americans, AC Milan. And then they kind of blew the second half, allowed Real Madrid to tie up the game, and then go ahead 3-2. And it was a shock, but it's only a friendly and exhibition. So that, that was a soccer highlight to see Christian Pulisic, at least in the first half. And then Inter Miami, I guess is their name. Miami's MLS team. They've got Messi. And when you got Messi, you are in it to the end. In the final seconds of the game, he scores a free kick. A perfect strike. Upper left corner. Messi's going to transform the MLS. It reminds me of when, the early days of the North American Soccer League when they thought they could do it with Kyle Rote Jr. Kyle Rote Jr., the son of the famous quarterback, Kyle Rote. Then they said, no, we got to get Pelé. And Pelé did, almost for a while. Pelé did. But it was still early in the stage of America's love affair with soccer. But now I'm talking about the 60s, that was, right? And now we're 60, almost 70 years later. We've got generations of kids playing soccer. And we have great American players playing abroad. Club teams like AC Milan, Pulisic. We have the U.S. men's and women's national teams. This is a moment when Messi made that goal from a free kick to enable Miami to win. This is the beginning of the transformation of soccer in the U.S. It's going to happen. And you had football eclipsing baseball. You're going to have football eclipsing baseball. And it's going to be Americans love football, American football, and we love football. And baseball will be third. I hope that doesn't happen, but I think it's going to happen. I think. And I don't know if I feel that way just because the San Francisco Giants fell apart this weekend. Starting with losing to the Reds, losing that series, going to Washington, losing that series. Oh, they got creamed 10-1, 6. I mean, it's just embarrassing. And now they don't even look like a winning team. I mean, they're a winning team, but they don't look like they're still like they used to be 1 or 2 pieces away. Now you'd say they're at least 2 or 3 pieces away from being a great team. They're still young, and so I've tempered my hopes once again. Oh, and then I didn't, true to form, I did not. I said I wasn't going to. I did not see Barbie. I did not see Oppenheimer. But I did see the documentary on Oppenheimer that they're playing on cable. Interesting, fascinating. I don't know if I necessarily need to see the dramatization now, or if I want to. It finished second to Barbie. I think I'd like to see Barbie a little bit, but I think I can wait. Oh, here is the surprise, what I saw this weekend. I was just tooling around on Netflix. And it coincidentally has to deal with exercise large African-American people. I saw the Patrice O'Neal documentary on Paramount Plus. Really well done. By All Things Comedy. I've seen Elephant in the Room before the documentary. I liked it. People talk up Patrice O'Neal. But the documentary puts it all together. So I recommend that if you're looking for things. But the second thing I watched was Michel Buteau's Netflix series, which is Survival of the Thickest, which is a large girl based on her diary or her journals about being a large girl in the fashion trade. She's a comedian. She's funny, and it's a funny show, and I loved it. I mean, I didn't watch all of it. I'm still like on episode 4 or 5. But you realize how much we discriminate against large-sized people. And I have a lot of very influential large-sized people in my life that I, teachers, friends. And I know sometimes I've been insensitive in the past. But they call themselves, I'm a fat man. And so no, it's a good show. It makes you sensitive to that. It makes you sensitive to LGBTQ issues. It makes you sensitive to everything. And it still manages to be funny. So Michel Buteau's Survival of the Thickest. And that's all. That's all I'll share today. More tomorrow. All right, look. It's Emil Guillermo. We talk here Monday through Friday. Don't forget, as I said, brought to you by Emil Amok's Takeout. My takes on all things considered. Emil Amok, Lost NPR host, which is the show I'm doing at the Frigid Fringe in San Francisco, 277 Taylor Street. I'm going to post this on my on all my social media stuff, and it has blurbs about what critics have said. 3 shows only: August 12th, 7 p.m., August 17th, 8:30 p.m., and Saturday the 19th at 1 p.m. And you can get a QR code, which gets you the link to tickets. Tickets are inexpensive. A fraction of what you'd pay for Here Lies Love. I'll tell you that. And there's no singing, no dancing. It's just me and my gong. So, like I said, I'm here Monday through Friday, 2 p.m. Pacific, live. We talk about, in the old-fashioned news radio sense of things, we talk about things. Talk about life. Talk about the news. Talk directly, me to you, from my heart to your headpiece. We also like to meditate. Yeah, I mean, well, you know, you can go to amok.com, or you go to YouTube at Emil Amok1, or Twitter. Oh, is it now X, officially X? I hate what they did to the birds. They made the birds extinct. They put an X. Anyway, at Emil Amok on Twitter. And amok.com for replays. You know, I like to meditate. And if it weren't for meditation, I'd be totally screwed up. I'd be all lost. But I meditate. Saving grace. And it begins with loving self-kindness, but begins with extending it out to you. To you, yeah. Yeah. Not starting with me. So, as I wish for me, I wish for you. May you be safe. May you be happy. May you be healthy. And may you live with ease. Emil Guillermo here. Till next time. Mahal Kita. You should look that up.